Wedding cake predictions for 2024.
Hi, welcome back to Bride Society. I'm Laura, this is Rebecca, and today we are looking at cake trends for the upcoming year. So we've already looked at more general wedding trends, we've looked at bridesmaid trends for 2024, and you can find those videos linked below. But today we're fully turning our attention to the star of the show of any wedding.
If you thought it was you, you're wrong.
Cakes. They might not, yeah. You might be, okay. If you are thinking about your wedding cake for 2024, then you've come to the right place, because we're going to tell you what's going to be bang on trend for the year ahead, and maybe just give you a bit more inspiration, and maybe a couple of things you haven't thought about doing for your wedding that you might now want to include.
So on with the cake show. So first up, we're talking pressed flower cakes. So this isn't a new trend. It's definitely been very popular in the last year or two, but it is showing no signs of going away. It's going to, we think, be still really strong through 2024. So a great option as an option. It's great for adding colour to a cake, because obviously, like, wedding cakes tend to generally be neutral, like, colours in terms of the icing, fondant, that kind of thing. But this is a really great way of adding that pop of colour. Obviously, they're edible flowers that you'll be using, so obviously that's useful. But yeah, so I really like that idea.
Yeah, and I think they still make such an impact. When I've been setting up these kind of cakes at weddings, the staff at the venue are always like amazed at the cakes. I think a lot of guests, being in the wedding industry, it can often feel as though you're just seeing lots of all these things. So you might expect these kind of pressed flower cakes to be everywhere. But if you're actually a guest going to a wedding, you've probably only maybe been to one, maybe two weddings that year. Yeah. So it's all new. They haven't seen this all before, and it's all, they're like, whoa, I didn't know you could do that. So yeah, they still make such an impact. And there's so many different ways of making them. Like, look different, so no two are the same. It's a trend I'm fully on board with. Our next trend is cake meadows. Now, what is a cake meadow?
What is a cake meadow? I had to ask it.
This is where you have basically a large floral installation underneath your cake. So you're making your impact with the flowers around the cake rather than necessarily the cake itself. The cake in the middle of all this could actually be quite a simple, I wouldn't want to use the word plain, but plain
understated.
Cake. You're letting the flowers do the talking, and so it looks like a wild meadow essentially. And this can, if you're having like lots of flowers throughout the rest of the wedding, it really ties in the cake with the rest of your decor, and it really again makes a big statement about the cake.
Yes, and we enjoy a cake statement, and this comes into our next trend on our list. It's to do with displaying the cake. So I suppose beyond the cake itself and all the pomp and circumstance around it. So obviously, you know, there's the typical kind of photo moment of cutting the cake. So it is a key photo moment, and obviously the cake is part of that. You're part of that photo, but you can make this and dress it up even more with sort of backdrops. So something like maybe framing the cake, or you can do that even by utilising things that you've used in other parts of the wedding. So say you created like a floral arch or an apex or something to get married in front of, in your ceremony, that could then be like moved and placed behind the cake. So again, great for pictures just of the cake and then of the cake cutting moment too. So lots of ways to do that. Say florals, wooden sort of rustic apexes, just so many ways
ideas
to do that. But yeah, it's just this trend about creating a more focal point around the cake. So it's not just a cake table over in the corner.
No, which is such a waste in my opinion. When you're spending money, or even if someone, like a family member or someone is making a cake for you, put it on show.
Yeah. It's a lot of time and effort and money.
Part of the wedding.
Yeah.
Don't just kind of neglect it in a corner. Just make something of it.
Yeah.
Something, again, not new, but...
in fact, old.
Very old, in fact. These vintage retro heart cakes have been really popular this year and are gaining in popularity for weddings as well. Especially, like, just a single tier, in fact. The tiered cakes are popular too, but we're seeing a lot more of these, like, heart-shaped cakes with lots of, like, over-piping, but generally all in one colour, like white or ivory, with maybe, like, just married written on the top or some short phrase written on the top. So not a huge cake. Again, this isn't a big bold statement, but it's a statement in a different way. It's like a really cool
sort of rock and roll vibe, like
cake cutting moment. So yeah, it's something that's definitely on the up, I think.
Actually, when Laura showed me sort of like inspiration pictures of this, like immediately in my head conjured pictures of like Elvis and Priscilla like doing cake cutting with this kind of cake. I have no idea what kind of cake they actually had. I probably should have looked that up. But like in my head, I could just really see them like cutting into this style of cake. So if you feel you've got that kind of vibe going on, you want to bring that, could be the way to go. So I think our next idea is a bit of an unusual one, like it's very, very new concept, is to have not necessarily a single tiered cake that stands alone somewhere, but instead actually having cakes on the tables separately as perhaps as the centerpiece. And so your cake topper might be the table name or number for that table, but yeah, basically every table has a cake as part of it.
This works especially well if you're serving the wedding cake as like dessert for you're having like a sit-down meal. Sometimes the wedding cake is served as dessert. It's already there waiting for your guests. They can just cut them down a slice. Yeah.
Come in, everybody.
Yeah. Another example of this kind of that isn't the same but along those lines, if you're having the long kind of farmhouse trestle tables, everyone sitting all together on one big table, you could just have one very long cake going all the way down the middle of the table, and everyone literally could dig in with a fork.
I immediately got pictures in my mind. Sorry, it's going to be a Friends reference, so I know I'm losing a certain generation here, but those of you in my generation, you know, like where Joey is there with the cheesecake and he's like, what are we having? And just starts like eating the cheesecake off the floor with this. Yeah.
I mean, that would be a fun wedding if you're never short of a snack.
Yeah. I'm not saying off the floor, but just off the middle of the table is what we're saying. But yeah, I'm just digging right in there. Our final trend for 2024, it's not actually cake as such, but bear with me, it's cake menus.
Cake adjacent.
Yeah. Much like the floor like the displays of the cake. Part of the display setup. Yeah, we're seeing this coming through is having a cake menu, so basically describing what's in each tier of the cake, because these days it's not so traditional for all the tiers to be fruitcake. And in fact, I mean, how long has it been since you've done that? Have you ever done that kind of wedding cake for somebody?
Yes, but sponge is definitely more common.
Right.
I would say it's very rare that they would choose fruitcake, and if fruitcake was chosen, it would be one tier rather than all three. Yeah. I think I've had one cake that was all fruit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you've been doing this a long time now. Yeah. So yeah, I guess there was a time where this would have been irrelevant, where you would just assume it was fruitcake. But now people often have the different tiers as different flavours from each other as well. So it can be a nice little touch to have the kind of little menu next to it to describe what's in each tier. Here's one I made earlier.
So there's just our roundup of some of the wedding cake trends we think will be big in 2024. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Are you having any of these type of cakes? Are you planning to do any of these things? Or have you got any other trends that you think will be really popular in the coming year? Drop us a comment below. If you like this video, give us a like. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.